Imagine waking up with a billion-dollar empire and by nightfall, it's gone. Not because of war or bankruptcy, but because one man in the Kremlin decided your wealth now belongs to him. Welcome to Vladimir Putin's Russia in 2025, where oligarchs are falling like dominoes, fortunes are vanishing overnight, and the entire economy is being drained for one man's grip on power. Before we dive deep into this power-grabbing nightmare, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the truth the headlines won't tell you. This isn't fiction. This is the collapse of a billionaire empire built over decades, and Putin's ruthless playbook is now leaving no one untouched. The Russian president didn't just target yachts or private jets, he turned the very men who built modern Russia into slaves of the state, funding a war machine that devours wealth and liberty alike. Let's start with Oleg Deripaska. Once Russia's richest man, he had it all: aluminum empires, political influence, and global assets. On February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, his fortune dropped like a rock. Half of his wealth disappeared by breakfast. By nightfall, Putin had turned on him entirely. His companies were seized. His hotel chains were nationalized. His aluminum plants converted into factories for weapons. He wasn't alone. Konstantin Strukov, Russia's gold king, had stayed loyal to Putin for decades. But that loyalty meant nothing. In 2025, his private jet was grounded, his mining empire wiped out by a single court order. No trial. No negotiation. Just raw, naked confiscation. The message was clear: no matter your history, no matter your loyalty, you are disposable. But why is this happening now? To understand, you have to go back to the 1990s. After the Soviet Union collapsed, chaos reigned. The country was in economic freefall. State assets were up for grabs. Oil fields, gas pipelines, steel factories, they were sold for pennies. A small group of sharp businessmen, the now infamous oligarchs, jumped in. Names like Boris Berezovsky, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, and Vladimir Guzinsky weren't just wealthy, they were powerful. They funded politicians, controlled TV stations, and decided elections. They became Russia's kingmakers. Then came Putin. A former KGB officer with a cold stare and a deeper plan. In 2000, he offered the oligarchs a deal: stay out of politics and keep your billions. It seemed fair. For years, this devil's bargain held. The economy grew, oil prices soared, and the oligarchs thrived in golden cages of luxury. But what they didn't see was the trap. When Khodorkovsky started funding opposition parties, he was dragged off his private jet and sentenced to 10 years in a Siberian prison. His real crime? Daring to challenge Putin. Berezovsky, once Putin's political godfather, was stripped of his media empire. He fled to London and was later found dead in a bathroom, officially ruled a suicide. Guzinsky's TV station criticized the Kremlin and was taken from him in a flash. He now lives in exile. By 2010, Putin had created a new kind of oligarch. Rich, yes. But muzzled. They lived in velvet cages, mansions, yachts, private islands, all gifted at Putin's mercy. Cross him, and it vanished. Putin didn't have to arrest everyone. Just a few high-profile examples kept the rest in check. Tax audits became weapons. Fines were retroactively invented. Overnight seizures became normal. One oil field, gone. One telecom empire, reassigned. All under the guise of legality. Then came the Ukraine war. The West responded with sanctions so massive, they froze billions overnight. Yachts were towed out of marinas. London penthouses went dark. Swiss bank accounts were locked. Putin, ever the opportunist, turned this into a loyalty test. He told his oligarchs, the West is your enemy. But I can protect you if you prove your loyalty. But even that didn't matter. Roman Abramovich, who tried to play peacemaker, was still forced to sell Chelsea FC at a huge loss. His companies were roped into military production. Usmanov, long considered a loyalist, had his businesses seized and his assets redirected to the war. And then there's Vadim Mashkovich, the textbook example of how Putin's power grab has spiraled. This man avoided politics, paid his taxes, and built Russia's biggest agricultural firm. But in March 2025, he was arrested. Why? Because Putin needed cash. His company's assets were too juicy to ignore. Let that sink in. Even silence isn't safe anymore. Since 2022, over $50 billion has been stolen from Russian billionaires. But here's the twist. The oligarchs aren't the biggest victims. The Russian people are. While the rich lost toys, ordinary citizens lost futures. The average Russian makes less than $700 a month. Rent in Moscow eats half of that. Food prices have jumped by 40%. Mortgages come with 23% interest if you can get one at all. Small businesses are dying by the thousands. In 2024 alone, over 200,000 shuttered. Not scaled back. Shut down. The ruble. Down 75% in just 2 years. Medicines are missing. Stores are empty. Hope is disappearing. Over 1 million Russians have left the country, not chasing dreams but fleeing despair. Meanwhile, Putin keeps spending. Russia's defense budget for 2025 is $145 billion. That's more than health, education, and infrastructure combined. The rest? It goes to surveillance. FSB facial recognition systems scan crowds. Social media is monitored 24/7. Speaking your mind is dangerous. Freedom is a fading concept. And in this environment, propaganda thrives. State-controlled media blasts out a single narrative, repeated endlessly: Russia is strong, the West is evil, and any suffering is a sacrifice for national pride. But most people don't buy it anymore. They see the contradiction between official stories and their lived reality. Empty fridges speak louder than news anchors. The younger generation, once patriotic, once hopeful, is now disillusioned. University graduates find themselves jobless or offered wages that can't pay rent. The tech sector, once booming, has been gutted by sanctions and mass emigration. Engineers, coders, designers, they've all left or are planning to. Even doctors are leaving. Russian hospitals, already struggling, are short-staffed and underfunded. Cancer patients face 6-month waiting lists. Heart surgeries are delayed due to lack of equipment. And rural areas? They might have one doctor for hundreds of kilometers. But Putin's grip tightens. Laws passed in 2023 and 2024 criminalize dissent in every form. Sharing a Western news article, criticizing the war, attending a protest, any of these can land someone in prison. And not just activists. Teachers, musicians, even students have been arrested. The economic elite isn't safe either. Billionaires who once sat comfortably beside Putin now face sudden investigations, frozen assets, and mysterious deaths. Falling out of favor isn't just bad for business, it's fatal. Over 30 high-ranking executives and wealthy allies have died under suspicious circumstances since 2022. Suicides with no notes. Heart attacks during dinner. Window falls from secure buildings. This isn't just theft. It's transformation. Putin isn't just taking yachts and jets, he's rewriting the social contract. Power is now survival. Loyalty is currency. Wealth is borrowed privilege, revoked at his whim. And as sanctions continue and oil revenues shrink, the regime looks inward for funding, squeezing every last drop from citizens. Pension funds raided. Subsidies cut. Taxes raised quietly. Inflation denied on paper, but undeniable in reality. Across Russia, people whisper. In subways, they lower their voices. In cafes, they glance over shoulders. Fear is back, real, visceral, and widespread. The kind of fear that doesn't just silence you, it isolates you. The social fabric is tearing. Communities are breaking. Suicide rates have risen. Alcoholism is surging again. Domestic violence, often ignored, is on the rise. And still, Putin stands before gold-draped podiums, smiling like nothing is wrong. But something is deeply wrong. Not just with the economy, not just with politics, but with the soul of the nation. A country of brilliant minds, rich history, and immense potential is being drained of its spirit day by day, ruble by ruble, life by life. The oligarchs may have lost billions. But the Russian people? They're losing everything. And what's scarier? This model is spreading. Authoritarian regimes are studying Putin's playbook. Strip billionaires of independence. Silence critics. Enrich the state while the people suffer. It's not just Russia that's at risk. The world is watching. And some leaders are taking notes. What happened to Russia should be a warning to every democracy, every entrepreneur, every citizen who values freedom. Because once a system like this takes root, it's almost impossible to undo. It doesn't just steal money. It steals ambition, innovation, humanity. This is the real tragedy of Putin's empire. Not just what was lost, but what could have been. If this story opened your eyes to the brutal cost of unchecked power, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. What do you think Putin's next move will be? And which country might follow this dangerous path?